I think that Ronda Rousey has proven to be a phenomenal athlete. I mean, she made it to the Olympics and got a medal there. So there's that commitment, and obviously she's going to have strength and power to go along with that, because you don't get there by just kind of coasting through. So I'm expecting her to come in strong and put up a tough fight. But, also every fight she's had, she really has kind of fought the same style, and it's smart because that's what she's good at. But it's also a little bit predictable, and so I've pretty much just taken my camp, working with my coach Adam Zucek down at Zuma in Victoria, and then worked with, brought in other people and worked with Greg Jackson and the team down there, and really just come up with a good game plan that's suited to me, and not worry so much about what Ronda's going to do, because you have to fight your fight.
Yeah, well, you talked a lot about how you really don't think she's being tested on the feet, and that's where you kind of want to exploit her game. Is that what you're basically looking to do, is trying to get it?
Yeah, it's definitely not a surprise that I'm going to want to keep standing and she's going to want to take it to the ground, just on paper, based on I have a lot of knockouts and she clearly has a lot of arm bars, and that's both of our comfort zones. So it's going to be who can do that better. And I'm really sure that I'm going to be able to do that substantially better.
How impressed were you with her last win? A lot of talk coming in about who she really beat, who she fought. That was a good win for her. How impressed were you with that fight?
She had great fights coming up to that fight. Really smart opponent picks, and kind of developing her a little bit as a fighter. And I think that's important. That's what a manager and a trainer should do, is they should get you the right fights at the right time. And I also think that Ronda knew that I'm a tougher fight than Miesha, and that's why she wanted the Miesha fight first, because stylistically she had that confidence that with her judo, she was going to be able to out-judo, out-grapple Miesha, where that's her strength as well. So I definitely am impressed with what she did, because she went in and executed her game plan and did what she wanted to do. And that's not easy when someone else is trying to do the opposite.
How does it make you feel when you see her on the cover of magazines and she's become this darling of mixed martial arts? And you're the former champ. I mean, you had the belt, and it's like you didn't get the same sort of hype. Does it kind of piss you off a little bit? And going into that fight, you really want to make a point that, hey, I'm still here. I'm still getting champ. I'm still out there.
Absolutely. It's different now that Zuffa's involved as well, and Zuffa has a big promotional background. They really push fighters and kind of direct fighters into where their niche is, and Ronda has made noise. She's come on the scene, really pushed outside of herself, which she's not comfortable doing. And so I understand that I'm not going to be pushed in the same way that Ronda is, just because we are different personalities, we are different athletes, and we kind of present ourselves differently. But I definitely want to get recognized for what I do and what I've done. And I would love to get, that extra coverage and some of the bigger things.
Can we talk about her trash talking? She's
saying
she doesn't like Kim Kardashian because she's only famous for a sex tape and she's not a good role model for girls. Then Miesha Tate went and called out Ronda Rousey, saying, well, she posed nude for ESPN magazine and she's a hypocrite. Do you think, one, this trash talking is helping women's MMA, and what do you think of Kim Kardashian?
I don't actually know a lot about Kim Kardashian. I actually didn't know she had a sex tape until I heard that she had a sex tape. So I didn't know that. So I didn't actually think she was all that trashy. And I don't know if she is. I don't know her as a person. When it comes to trash talk, I think that there is a time and a place. I think sometimes what Ronda says is almost too uncensored. I think that if Ronda wants to be a role model and she's saying, well, Kim Kardashian shouldn't be a role model because she's doing this and this and this, and I don't want my daughter looking up to that, I think it's almost the same with some of what she's saying. Do you want your daughter looking up to someone who says things like that? So I think it's a really fine line and a fine balance. You should always speak your mind, but also keep in mind who's listening. I think that the fight with Ronda myself is more about Ronda's the new champ. She's, the phenomena that came on the scene and, took over, women in the sport. That's how I want to sell the fight, at least. That I'm coming in, as a 5-1 underdog, which is crazy. I mean, I'm the former champion. How can you say that when Ronda's literally had one fight in my division? But that's how I'm coming in, and I'm ready to come in and slide that red carpet out. You know, I try and do that to some degree. You know, I try and push myself farther than I'm comfortable pushing myself, but I also have a line, have limits as to what I'm willing to do to step out of that box as well.
Dana White was asked yesterday at the press conference about women's MMA coming to the UFC one day, and I know he's really big. This time he paused and he thought about it and kind of went like this. Do you think you guys are closer and closer getting sort of, you know, to be on that larger stage in the UFC?
Absolutely. Honestly, every fight, and that's why every fight matters, but every women's fight that's out there, that's shown, that's exciting, is another positive step towards getting into the UFC. And I mean, Dana went a couple years ago saying he would never even watch women's fighting, to, well, I'll watch it, but I don't want to put it on, to, well, I only like Gina, to, well, at this point we're not going to have fighters because there aren't enough, to, oh, well, you know, it's not going to happen right now, but, you know, I think every day is a step forward, and having Zuffa acquired Strikeforce is, again, Dana's now almost forced to work closely with the females, and he's seeing what we can do and that we can bring in numbers and that people want to see us fight.
His big objection is that the women's, like your division, just, you know, there's you, there's Misha, there's Rondi. After that, it kind of thins out, and the division isn't deep enough, and that's his main objection right now. Do you agree with that, and do you see your division sort of getting that depth?
I actually feel like there is quite a lot of depth in the division, but right now, under Strikeforce, they only have a certain number of fighters. And so, you know, I know that a couple of the fighters that I've fought in Strikeforce, I fought them and then all of a sudden they were gone. You know, they didn't get to stick around to actually help build that division. And so the people that are known, you know, myself and Ronda and Misha, you know, Alexis Davis a little bit because I just fought her, you know, fights that have recently happened people know about, but they don't know about all the other fights that are still happening. You know, Invicta Fights, they have an entire female card that they're putting on with really high-level females, and I think that Zuffa's probably going to start pulling from there, and half of them are actually Strikeforce fighters.
You recall back 4 years ago or so, you were fighting in the corral store.
Yeah.
Can you maybe explain how your life has changed from that day when you're very
I mean, that day was a pretty big opportunity for me because it really was. Yeah, it was fun. I liked that fight. It was good. You know, it really was, you know, my kind of initial big stepping stone. Because I'd gone from, you know, I fought in the TKO fight right before that, Valley Laterno, and that was a huge crowd attendance, but it was still someone who was around my experience level. And fighting Janelle Marquez for that first title, you know, I didn't know what to expect in a 5-round fight, or fighting someone who'd been fighting for like 4 years, and I'd only been fighting for a year. And seeing the, you know, just the fans getting behind a fight like that, you know, I think a lot of them hadn't seen females fight before, and it was a really positive reception. And to go from that, you know, just those fans there, to now people either knowing who I am or who other females are, and actually asking for those fights. You know, and that's only in, you know, 4 or 5 years. That's a huge growth over that time, even though there have been kind of a couple steps forward and then a couple steps back, and it's kind of waved up and down with popularity. It's always there, and it's kind of that continual baseline of fans is constantly growing.
With a year and a half or so left on the Strikeforce contract, and as you mentioned, Dana White's changing view on women's MMA, do you see the next year and a half, I guess, as an audition period or a chance for women's fighters to really show on a Strikeforce platform, you know, what kind of value there is for women's fighting in the UFC?
100%. And I hope, I mean, on August 18th, I know that I'm fighting Ronda, Misha Tate and Julie Kedzie are fighting, and then there's a third female fight on that card as well. And I think it's Jermaine Durandamy, I think is her name. And she's fighting Yamanaka. So, I mean, it's great to see that Strikeforce and Showtime are putting more female fights together, and Sean Shelby is doing a great job of trying to get females active and involved, and and seen. And so over this next year and a half, it's really important that Strikeforce on every card is going to have females, I hope, because that's going to keep the fans involved, and that's what Dana wants. He wants the fans to be invested in these females and in these athletes, and he wants them to pay to want to see them. Because if people are like, oh, well, I like watching them, but I don't want to pay for it, we're not bringing anything to the table. And as soon as we are, which I think we are at this point, it's going to open Dana's eyes and say, yeah, this could make me some money, this could make UFC some money, and this could bring in a different clientele or viewership that we might not have had before. And that's what's really important.
What do you really plan to bring to the table against Rousey? I know you placed this out in the game, but what do you want to bring to the table to get those fans to get Dana's attention even more?
I think it's important that it's not a one-sided fight for myself or for Ronda, because I think, if Ronda comes in there and armbars me in 5 seconds, I'm a high-level athlete and I'm I'm a legitimate contender and I've had that title, and that almost would say to Dana, oh yeah, see, Ronda's had 6 fights and she can beat every single person on the planet. But if I come in and I, just flatten Ronda out with 3 punches, it's the same thing where, we get Ronda all pumped up, but she's not even that good because this girl who I don't even know her name, comes in and squishes her on the floor. So I think it's important that it is an exciting fight, that there is some back and forth, and that there is that almost drama to it, where it's like, oh, is she going to get knocked out? Is she going to get submitted? I don't know what's going to happen. And then there's a finish of some sort, hopefully me getting the hand out.
Well, those are the best kind of fights, right? We all like to see back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And that
knockouts once in a while, though, are pretty awesome.
they're amazing. They
Do you
are.
still have any hard feelings that you were passed over against Misha by Ronda in that last fight?
I hold a grudge for certain things. I think you have to look at it as a fight and say, this is the fight I have now. It gave me the opportunity to have a really good fight with Alexis Davis and showcase both of us, and almost get me in that fight mode again, because I've had quite a few fights where my opponents haven't really come and showed up to fight me. They've kind of almost showed up to not lose, not win, not lose, just not get killed, pretty much. And so with Alexis, she was game and she was there, and it made it an exciting fight, and it really got me back into that fight mode. And I think that that's really important for this fight with Ronda. And I also think it's probably a little nerve-wracking for Ronda, because she hasn't been in a fight where it's been an actual fight. I try and work from a bunch of different people. I try and have confidence in what I say, and my confidence is that I believe what I'm saying. And Chael does a phenomenal job of being Chael and just saying the most ridiculous things that are clearly not true, but are hilarious, and he says them with such conviction. You're like, all right, yeah, he has no losses on his record. I've never seen him lose, and he's that good at it, and that's not me. Like I'm not, and I wouldn't even say it lying, because I don't think he's trying to prove it as fact. He's just saying things, and he just, as I say, has so much conviction with them that you're like, that guy's awesome. So there's just different parts that I try and pick and choose, try and be confident and try and say things that matter and that people want to actually hear an opinion about. Yeah. And I think it's important to be opinionated and not just, oh, well, everyone's lovely and roses are